that uncanny parental sixth sense and start all over again from the top. Then it will be you asking for pain relief, for your ears. And I'll tell you another thing. For your entire life, how you were born will be used to explain you. Why you are how you are. Parents will say stuff like, "Oh, it's no wonder our Jasper is so good at ballroom dancing. After all, he was born on a Tuesday, just after I'd had a ham sandwich." Or, "Well, of course Deirdre's a dawdler. She was born just shy of the M25. And all the other parents will nod solemnly like this makes total sense, pour themselves another cup of tea and say, "Tell me again what she weighed." Mine were the same. They'd bring up the way I was born at the drop of a hat, especially when I was cross. And they'd always say the same thing. "Well, that's what happens when you're born in a storm." This, of course, would only make things worse. I mean, it's very difficult to discuss the injustice of the recycling rota when your parents just keep bringing up the weather. From 11 years ago. It didn't end there either. Once they started, there was no stopping them. My birth story was so well rehearsed in our house it was like a duet. My parents had their lines and they knew them well. "You were born raging, Frances Frida Ripley." That's how Dad would start. "Salty from the get-go, you were." Frances Frida Ripley is me, by the way. Hi. Except I'd rather you didn't call me Frances, if that's okay. Frankie's fine. Then Mum would interrupt. "Well, love, that's not completely true. Frankie was a very peaceful baby girl. A little wet, a bit cold perhaps, but so calm, so still. You looked as if you didn't have a care in the world." That would have been the hypothermia kicking in, Mum. "Yeah, you were peaceful for all of a second," Dad would add. "Right up until the moment you took your first breath." Tiny smiles would fly between them like birds swooping home. That was when you started raging. And you haven't really stopped since. Then, at a look from Mum, he'd mutter, "But we wouldn't have you any other way, of course," and lope off towards his painting shed. But here's my take on it. What did they expect? Of course I lost my temper when I was born. I mean, they were the ones who decided to have a baby on a freezing beach, on top of some pebbles, in the middle of winter, in a storm. No wonder I got a bit eggy. Any sensible baby would. 2. My birth story. Anyway, it wasn't my fault. It was their idea to head down to the beach that day, even though Mum was heavily pregnant with me. Even after they saw the thick black storm clouds circling our small village. They could have done something sensible instead, like driving to the nearest hospital on a test run, making a careful note of how much the parking cost and whether that was reasonable. Perhaps then I would have turned into a very different child, and this would be a very different story. But they weren't practical people. "I wanted to paint the storm," Dad said. "Stand inside it. See its colours." Dad said stuff like this regularly. He was an artist. He was nuts about colours. For his day job, he painted pet portraits. Didn't matter if they were scaly, hairy, sweet or scary. If you had £275 to splash out on a 9-inch by 12-inch painting of your pet, unframed, then Dad, also known as Dougie Ripley, also known as Cliffstone's one and only pet portrait painter, was your man. In his spare time, though, he painted the sea. "I'll never get close to showing the sea the way she looks in my head," he'd say to us. Us being me and Birdie, my 6-year-old sister. "Why paint it then?" we'd ask. In reply, he'd tap the side of his nose and smile his wonky smile. "It's the pull of it," he'd say then. "You can't deny the pull of it." Whatever that meant. And don't even get me started on Mum. She was practically 9 months pregnant on the day of the storm. She could have sat about on the sofa complaining about her swollen ankles.